Well, look at there. And just like that, you blinked and it is Monday. Welcome in to this Monday. And it's not just any Monday. What do you think I'm getting at here? What do you think I'm driving to here? It's not just any Monday, is it? No. No, it's not. It is the Monday of the week that will lead into the first weekend with real, meaningful, live, regular season college football games going to be played on Saturday. It's coming to your city. Well, let's be real. Okay, the first one is probably not coming to your city. Okay, but you can watch it. The first college football game that's going to happen, FBS anyway, it'll be Saturday at 11 a.m. around here in Dublin, Ireland. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, so you're not in, we probably don't have any listeners in Dublin. We probably don't. But, man, you've made it to what can be considered, not for State, not for Ole Miss, but for some other teams anyway, you have made it to what can be considered game week. I'll watch it. 10th ranked Florida State versus unranked Georgia Tech. Watch for the upset. Man, hallelujah. All right, get on in here on this Monday. You can be a part of the show. This is live. It is not pre-recorded. I hadn't taped a doggone thing. This is live. So get on in here. You can be a part of it. Comment on the live stream. Hey to you, Thomas on Facebook. First to comment. He said, checking in from Reno, Nevada. Back at you, Thomas. Coming to you live from the Bureau, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance. Go with the home team. They are your home team all across the great state of Mississippi. Your hometown heroes. That's your local Farm Bureau insurance agents. What else do I have on this? I got all these buttons I can push and you hear things like those songs you just heard. Let me see if I can find something else that just screams college football. You ready? Let's see what I've got. Hold on. Here we go.
You know what time it is.
And get your texts in here also on the Country Pleasing text line. The number to text is 885-3776. 601 number 885-3776. And a good way to remember that is 885-ESPN. You can also call me on the Davini phone. Davini Equipment, Highway 51, Madison Spring Ridge Road in Jackson. Your Kubota dealer. They are the oldest Kubota dealer in the U.S., in fact. It means they've been doing it better, longer than anyone else right here at home at Davini. The number to call, 897-1059. That's a 601 number, 897-1059. Yeah, Jason in Flagstaff texted the show. He said the day before, the day after tomorrow. Yeah, that's what this is. Not just any Monday. It's the day before, the day after tomorrow. Hey, I don't see Thursday games. Now, next week you'll have some Thursdays, including Jackson State, who opens their season on a Thursday night. But not this Thursday. That'll be the next. So this week it's Saturday games. I see 4 of them. Y'all let me know. But in the FBS, I see 4 of them, regular season games. Excited? Yay? Nay? Mostly yay? No SEC teams this weekend, all right? No, they don't have any this weekend. But you will have some next week on Thursday night. You don't have to actually wait until the second Saturday to watch some SEC teams. Big finish. Here we go. Yeah, so get them on in here. This Saturday, 11 a.m., ESPN, live from Aviva Stadium in Dublin, Ireland. It is Georgia Tech from the ACC, unranked. No rank, unranked. But that's preseason stuff, so nobody really cares anyway. They're unranked. Versus preseason, 10th ranked Florida State, chop, chop. They got Florida State in there by a little less than 2 touchdowns, but we're going to see. Then at 3 o'clock Central Time, Saturday afternoon on FS1 at University Stadium in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Montana State at New Mexico. Later that evening over on CBS Sports Network, 7 p.m. Central Time kick from Reno, Nevada, where you are, Thomas, in your hometown, Thomas, over there on Facebook. Saturday night at 7 to be SMU versus Nevada or Nevada. Hey, Thomas, help me out. The people that live in Nevada, do you say Nevada or Nevada? Let me know. And then get this, Saturday night, I ain't going to be up for this one. But more power to you if you are, great. But Saturday night at 11 p.m. Central Time from Honolulu, Hawaii, you'll have Hawaii hosting Delaware State. So those are your 4 games this weekend. It is officially what could be considered game week around college football. Unnamed texter with a good question. I'm coming to it. But first, how is Beeve on a Monday? Hey, B. Hey, B. You know what? I should have known that would happen. We had problems with Beaver's mic during the pre-show. Like 1 second I could hear him, the next second it cut out. Somebody was standing on the court, I couldn't hear him. Is it working? I don't think it's working. We'll get it fixed. Somebody call Bill. Something tears up, call Bill. 1, because he can fix it. 2, because he probably tore it up. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Bill, wherever you are, however you're listening, we love you. I'm just kidding. I really don't think you tore it up. But we did have problems with Beaver's mic in the pre-show. It was doing something weird. So we'll try to get that squared away. Hey, it's Monday. We got all week.
How's this one?
Oh, there you go. He's live. Yeah, I hear you great on that one. Were you speaking a second ago and I just couldn't hear you?
Yeah.
Okay. I figured as much.
Yep. Technical troubles.
Hold on. Let me hit the other bed. Oh, that sounds good. Charlie eating spaghetti out of a Ziploc. Going down in the basement and killing all the rats with a baseball bat with nails driven through it. Am I right? Isn't that what he used?
Yeah. The rat stick.
Okay. I knew it had a name. How was your weekend?
It was fine.
Okay.
It was just fine.
Just fine. You know, Beaver, they used to call these games like we're having this weekend in college football, they used to call it week 0. And you remember I gave a big rant about how stupid that was last year. And guess what? They don't call it week 0 anymore. Do you realize that? They're done with that.
No, I thought it was still called that.
If you go over to the beloved mothership, ESPN.com, and look up the college football scoreboard, Beav, the games that are happening this weekend, as well as the games next Thursday night, as well as the games next weekend, are all called week 1. How about that, sir?
No, okay. Well, I got to take issue then, Matt Wyatt, because I think calling 2 weeks worth of games week 1 is worse than week 0.
Because technically the word week has a definition, right?
Yeah.
And it's what? 7 days. A week, W-E-E-K, is 7 days. A week consists of 7 days. So how can something that is going to happen over the course well, hold on now. Let's see. Hold on. Maybe we're on to something now, B, but it's actually more than 7 days. If you count this Saturday, the 24th, on your finger, count it. So hold up one finger for Saturday, August 24th, and you start counting. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the following Saturday. That's 8 days of activity, which technically spans more than 1 week to support your claim there, sir.
Yeah. So I'd rather week 0. Yeah, week 0 was kind of dumb. That was kind of along the lines of when they kept trying to convince me that the play-in games of the NCAA tournament, when those first started, they were considered first round. No, they weren't.
Right, because
it always aggravated me so much.
No, I'm with you, because we'd already been calling them play-in games forever. How long? And since they started them, and then we just go up, call them first round, and we know good and well they're not. I don't know. I guess it's for me, calling this Saturday, week 1, is the lesser of two evils versus calling them week 0. Because my point is, there's no if it's 0, it doesn't exist. If we're going to go with definitions here, okay, you can't say week 0 when it's all of those teams' first game of the year, and that didn't make any sense either. And then my other point was, more cynically, let Notre Dame be playing a game that first week. They ain't calling it 0. They would not call it week 0. Well, sure enough, here we are, 2024. Go to ESPN. Since we have 10th ranked Florida State playing, it's week 1, baby. Week 1. Even though week 1 is going to last 8 days according to the schedule. Well, actually, I take that back. It's going to last week 1, okay, to further emphasize your point, Beaver. Semantics here, but calling it week 1. They're also going to play games on Saturday, August 31st, obviously most of the country. But there's also a game on Sunday and then another one like on Monday. So week 1 is going to go for the better part of 10 days. So, but anyway, I'll take that over week 0. All right. Enough of that nonsense. You ought to listen thinking, Matt, surely you have something else to talk about. Yeah, we do. But first, the first thing I have to talk about is your text. I got a text here right off the bat from an unnamed texter on the Country Pleasing Sausage text line, which, side note, the homecoming queen and little HQ, Annabeth, Mary Liddy, and Honey. We call her Honey, Annabeth's mama, Annabeth's sister, and her daughter B, Lana Claire and B. They all went to the Brandon Amphitheater this past weekend, and they got to see Lauren Daigle in concert. They had a big time. They really enjoyed it. And at the concessions, you could buy a country-pleasing sausage dog. As far as I'm concerned, it was the only thing on the menu worth what they were asking for it. But I wasn't there. But anyhow, yeah, you can get them. Apparently at the Brandon Amphitheater, you can get a country-pleasing sausage dog. Okay, so my texter said, do you think the setup for the playoffs are going to be more fun to watch with expansion? For instance, do you think each conference should get a team, or just best teams should get in? Okay, let me stop right there. You've kind of got multiple questions. But first of all, I will say, no, right now, college football is not set up in a way that it would make sense for them to say, okay, every conference out, these, 12 conferences are going to get a team in. I do think it makes sense what they've done where they did what? Is it 4 or 5 the top ranked conference champions are get automatically in, and then everybody else after that is sort of open to the committee. They may or may not be a conference champion, but that's not going to be the determining factor whether they get in or not. So I'm kind of okay with that. And if if you wanted to go and really organize it more and say, we're going to totally open this thing up. And even though the Power 4 conferences right now have all the money and all the fans and everything, we're going to include what's left of the Pac-12. And we're going to include, the Sun Belt. And you're going to have a conference champion from there get in. It would totally turn it all upside down. And right now, all the power schools, they have the power. And they're never going to make those decisions to give up that in any way, okay? So, yeah, I'm okay with that. It is because of the lack of parity really across the entire country in multiple conferences. All right. And your example is that like 10-2 Memphis in over a 9-3 LSU. No, I wouldn't be for that because, well, I say for it. I don't know that it would really matter to me that much. But no, I kind of like what they've done, where you're going to do, a certain number of ranked conference champions. They're getting in. So you're still valuing regular season and winning your conference championship for those big schools. But then you're going to have other spots available just according to what you've done. I think that lends itself more to having the best teams. So I'll just be real with you. Selfishly, I like it's totally selfish. But I just like the idea of my school, which is Mississippi State, which is in the SEC, that every so often, if they were to have the right quarterback and the right team and go out and buy the right players out of the portal, that they could have, it cycle around every so often where they make a run at a 9-win season. And you get that magical 9th win somewhere, and it'd be sort of historic and would have a legit shot at getting into the playoff, even though they wouldn't be one of the top 2 teams and going to the SEC championship game. See, so I'm just telling you selfishly from my standpoint, I like it the way they designed it because the school I root for is in the SEC. Now, selfishly, if they break all that up, someday you're not in the SEC or something, I'd probably have a different answer for you. You said it'd be a shame to watch Memphis versus Ole Miss in comparison to, say, Ole Miss versus Michigan. Well, and see, you say a shame. From a competitive standpoint, from a true competition standpoint, I wouldn't say it'd be a shame to have that matchup in a playoff. I'm just saying I believe in this gap that we currently have out there. And more often than not every time, but more often than not, the group of 5 versus the Power 5 matchup, like in a playoff, is going to go the way of the Power 5. They got the resources and the players and the depth and all that kind of stuff. You say, in comparison to Ole Miss, Michigan, well, see, that's what the committee, they want to make sure that they preserve the ability to manipulate certain matchups for the greater interest, for the higher TV rating, because the whole thing is being blown into this big, huge financial balloon that it is by TV money. So they're all looking for a way to continue that, expand that, because they get rich off of it. Even the individuals who make the decisions on that stuff, they're all getting rich off of the influx of television money behind it. And we've talked about that before. It goes back to over the last 20 years, the advent of the internet, then therefore everything's online, immediate, highlights, therefore on-demand viewing versus television viewing. I can watch stuff in replay and YouTube and all this other kind of stuff. I can stream it. So live television is surviving on live sports. Therefore, they will pay exorbitant amounts of money to have the rights to broadcast the teams and the schools and the leagues that draw the most interest on television. Television's driving the whole thing. Good question. Thanks for the text right off the bat. I appreciate it. MSU 1980 texted the show and said, Matt, usually months fly by me so fast I never think it is as late in the month as it really is, but not this month. He said, I keep thinking it's later in the month than it really is. I think it's because I'm very ready for high school and college football to begin, and it hasn't gotten here yet. I have always said, MSU 1980, the slowest 2 weeks of the year are the last 2 weeks leading up to the start of college football. It's like you get there and you're like, man, we're almost there. And then it drags on for 14 days until they finally kick the ball off. And in this case, it'll be 11 a.m. our time, Saturday in Dublin, Ireland. St. Louis Vic texts the show, country pleasing text line. He said, Matt, I'm not sure what's going on with me, but I'm not really excited about football at the moment. He said, maybe because I have a lot going on. My baby girl is starting college. We're gearing up to move in. He said, I haven't looked at rosters or schedules, but I know my football spirit will come. Vic, you echo so many people. I believe it is the majority of people who have been fans of especially college football their whole life. The emotional ride and clock that you go through, that you have always gone through leading up to football, is different now because of all those things that have changed. Once the games start, you'll be fine, and I will too. But I'm with you, Vic. It's a little different. Just getting started on this Monday. Y'all stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes grand, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling. unforgettable, and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing, it's a fun thing, it's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing, it's a wing wing. A brand new classic grand fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing, a fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra features at no extra charge from Mazda. You get a bed liner, mud guards, sliding rear window, floor mats, and AM/FM stereo. That's a $625 value at no...
Back with you. I'm Matt. In the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance. Go with the home team. Brandon commented on Facebook and said simply 3 words, one more weekend, followed by 3 exclamation points, 1 per word. Will, good to hear from you. He says, happy Monday. Hey, and y'all reach out. I got to know, I have not heard from Sven. Now, maybe he took the summer off. You know, he's over in Berlin, Germany. I need to know that Sven's okay. I haven't heard from him in a while. He would always tune into the live stream on YouTube, and I don't know if I ran him off or if something changed or if his internet's out or what. Wonder where Sven is. Will, good to hear from you. He said, happy Monday. He said, it's week 0. He said, you know what that means? ESPN has released their playoff predictor and listed 24 teams who they think have the best odds to make the 12-team playoff. Well, okay, fine. They got to have more than 12, I guess, right? Give themselves a little bit of cushion, but also something to argue about. Yeah, 12. Haven't seen anybody play. Everybody's roster is majorly different than it was last year in varying degrees. Yet they know before anyone has played a game, which means, Will, that they want me to believe they've been to every practice and know everything about every team, even though all new teams, lots and lots of new players and new spots, and can rank the 24 teams that have the best shot at the playoff. Okay, got it. Sure. Anyway, Will says they're top 12 in order. Georgia, Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Penn State, Bama, Mizzou, Tennessee, Oklahoma, FSU, Michigan. Other SEC teams cracking the top 24, LSU, A&M, and Ole Miss. Well, yeah. And that's honestly like a list of teams that it's not exactly like they're going out on a limb there. Danny on YouTube says, Hail State Matt from Ringgold, Georgia. Jay out here on Facebook said, what's up, Matt? Ready for some football? You bet. You bet. Yeah, we got to find out what's up with Sven. Hope he's okay. Used to hear from him every day. Hadn't heard from him in a while. He may have just gotten sick and tired of the offseason where I did not have enough football on the show during the summer. Maybe that's what it was. But anyhow, Sven, wherever you are, however you're listening, we miss you and we love you. We hope you're doing well. Yeah, I'm going to go back real quick here to Vic's text, and then we're going to hit headlines for today. St. Louis Vic. He was saying, I don't know what it is, but I'm just not quite as amped up for football as I usually am. And I think a lot of people are going through that. I still think the best way to describe it, and it is the way I've described it, is the things surrounding the game itself, the games themselves, like, the build-up, the trash talk between fan bases, the comparing your history to your rival, all the offseason stuff and the recruiting and the contract extensions for coaches and hot seat talk and all those different things have the interest in them overall. Now, your everyday, same conveyor belt media services out there are still pumping that stuff out and drumming up those talking points the same way they did 10 years ago. But I'm telling you, Vic, as fans, most, not all, most are reacting to the off-season non-game stuff the way you are, and that is, I just don't have quite the same hunger for that stuff as I used to. Once you get to the games, you're good, right? And you and I be the same way. Once you're watching an actual game with the ball in the air on TV, you're good. But all the other stuff and the build-up, it's not as sharp. And frankly, a lot of the changes and stuff has done that to a lot of people. Now, I've said this, give me two things. The actual games, once the games start, I don't care anymore how players got there and what they're getting paid. I just don't care. Once the games start. And the sort of X's and O's chess match, offensive scheme, defensive scheme, how that's working, I will forever enjoy seeing that stuff and trying to figure those kinds of things out as they're happening. It's just, to me, it's a really fun part of the game. And that doesn't change, thank goodness. All right, here we go. Headlines for today.
Good evening. I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world.
Good evening, and welcome to Eyewitness News.
Here's what's making news.
Headlines brought to you by Bank of England Mortgage, the mortgage company in Mississippi. And 𝐌𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐬𝐢, the mortgage man. Find him online at mortgagemanms.com. That's Bank of England. The Las Vegas Raiders have named our Mississippi's own Gardner Minshew as their starting quarterback for week 1 of the upcoming season. Head coach Antonio Pierce of the Raiders making that announcement yesterday. Gardner Minshew from Brandon, Mississippi, via Northwest Community College and then East Carolina and then Washington State. Signed with the Raiders as a free agent this offseason, and he was competing with Aiden O'Connell for the starting job. The quote from Antonio Pierce, the head coach, is, a lot of things went into it. It wasn't based off solely last night, meaning their Saturday night game. He says there's a lot of factors, so we feel like Gardner gives us the best opportunity to get off to a fast start, and that's what we're going with. We support him, our team's behind it, and our staff's behind it, and the organization is behind it. And it wasn't like O'Connell didn't push Gardner Minshew a little bit. He did. But Minshew clearly better and just more experienced. If you're a real statistician, you can look at QBR, and there's a pretty significant difference there last year between those two players. But everything else, O'Connell last year, of course, Minshew was in Indianapolis. They were both at 62%. They were both at the same yards per attempt. Minshew's touchdowns were better. O'Connell threw fewer interceptions in a Raiders uniform last year. But Gardner Minshew, your starter, and the Raiders open the 2024 season at the LA Chargers in week 1 of the season. So another local kid is a starting quarterback in the NFL. Speaking of starting quarterbacks, headline number 2, listen to this. The CFL has reinstated Chad Kelly on what they are calling a last chance agreement. Former East Mississippi Community College quarterback, former Ole Miss Rebel Chad Kelly, returned to the Toronto Argonauts on Sunday after he was reinstated by the CFL, the Canadian Football League. He was the CFL's most outstanding player last year, Chad Kelly, but he was suspended back in May for Toronto's 2 exhibition games and the first 9 regular season games for violating the CFL's gender-based violence policy. And so the league said yesterday in a statement that they had reinstated Chad Kelly, quote, on a last chance agreement provided that he continues to meet a number of ongoing conditions. And the league said the conditions are confidential. They're not going to disclose what those conditions are. They, quote, reflect the need for him to demonstrate a continued commitment to upholding league standards. All right. Now, the suspension, when they suspended him back earlier in the year, y'all remember the story. The CFL did an independent investigation into a lawsuit filed by a former strength and conditioning coach against Chad Kelly for sexual harassment. And the Argonauts, she said that they wrongfully dismissed her. And so there's a lot in there. But what they have made clear is he's such a good player. He was the league's MVP. He can play football. But he's had one off-the-field problem after another, after another, after another, after another. It's like a never-ending stream of not able to behave like a responsible grown-up behaves, period. Call it what it is. And here's Chad Kelly on a last chance agreement with the CFL. And one foul up and he's out. Yeah, and I get it. I get the, not irony, but there's almost a pun in there. He, famously came out of Last Chance U right over here in Scuba, Mississippi. But he's on his last chance agreement in the CFL. We'll see how he does this year. Okay, I told you about Minshew earning the starting job for the Raiders. You look around the rest of preseason football that had happened in the NFL this weekend. You had Saints 49ers. It's just a preseason game, but some people think that Spencer Rattler is looking pretty good. Now, he goes 50% throwing the ball for the Saints the other night, 4 of 8, and took 2 sacks. He didn't really have any balls that were really thrown down the field very much. I think the 4 completions that he had averaged about 3.5 yards of completion. Other than that, Hayner was 7 of 13, Derek Carr 7 of 9. I don't know if any of those guys are going to unseat Derek Carr right now or not for the Saints. More on the preseason and all that. Those are your headlines, brought to you by Bank of England Mortgage and Went McGee, the mortgage man. More coming your way. Stick around.
Now's the time to get a great deal on proven Kubota farming equipment. Tractors that are adaptable.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do?
Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm think on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, Tom. Yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court. Thursday.
For over half a century, dairymen have tried to capture in cans the flavor of pure, fresh milk. And now Foremost has discovered the secret with an evaporated milk that's closest by far to fresh milk itself.
Kind of hard to believe, isn't it? An evaporated milk that doesn't have that old-fashioned evaporated milk taste. But it's true, and you can prove it. You know how most evaporated milks taste in coffee. The flavor goes flat. But try Foremost. You'll see it's white, the way milk ought to look, not drab tan like other brands. And when you taste it, well, if you're anything like me, you'll never even know it isn't pure, fresh cream. You try it and see. That's Foremost, the closest thing in cans to pure, fresh milk. Remember, your family gets the most from Foremost.
Coca-Cola, come on, girl. Gotta share a Coke with you. Let the feeling show through. You wanna live a little bit more. That's what the taste of Coke is for. Coke adds life. Everybody wants a little life. Coca-Cola, Coke adds life. Everybody wants.
Come on, Harry, come on. We're getting our picture taken.
Special moments. Times of your life you'll want to remember. In pictures.
Smile, Howard. Smile.
To help make those pictures look as good as they can, make sure Kodak paper is behind them. If you don't see these words, it isn't Kodak paper. Just look for this sign when you get your pictures. Kodak paper for a good look at the times of your life.
Gee, wasn't that fun?
Come and get it! Come and get it!
Stop the confusion. Stop the confusion. Everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Buster wants the cornflakes, Pop wants a pep. Mama loves the Raisin Bran, Mama is hip. Sister loves Rice Krispies, and there's Uncle Jack. He loves Kellogg's shredded wheat. Kellogg's makes it fun to eat. Breakfast with Variety Pack. Okay, folks, there's your favorite individual box of cereal, fresh from Kellogg's Variety Pack, untouched by human hands, except your own. That don't mean you gotta eat with 'em. Each individual box comes to your FOD, fresh on delivery from Battle Creek, right to your own dish. Yeah, everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Yes, sir, Kellogg's Variety Pack.
Here comes the one, the delicious one. Heinz is the big rich one. There's only one ketchup with this flavor pouring on. So thick, so rich, so second to none.
Only one ketchup stands for this kind of thickness with this kind of taste. Heinz.
Heinz is the big rich one.
I love the rich, whole wheat goodness of Kellogg's Mini Wheats. But the delicious frosted side makes the rich kid in me open wide.
The nutritious shredded wheat helps keep me on my toes. But the little ballerina in me thinks the taste steals the show.
Kellogg's Mini Wheats, wholesome shredded wheat.
59 and worldwide at thezone1059.com.
All right, back with you. In the Bureau, the Mississippi Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go! With the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance all across the great state of Mississippi. Your hometown heroes. That's your local Farm Bureau Insurance agents. PT for MSU says some teams will probably have 2, quote-unquote, week 1 games. See, look, you do have a point. See, that, makes Beaver's point from earlier. He's like, how can you, a week, you can't call it week 1 when a week is 7 days and you're including stuff that's happening across 10 days. And yeah, it's a good point. I mean, because some of them are going to play next weekend. Because the games that are happening this weekend involve Florida State, Georgia Tech, Montana State, New Mexico, SMU, Nevada, Delaware State, and Hawaii. So 4 games and 8 teams. So some of those 8 teams are going to turn around and play again next week. So we're saying that some teams are going to have 2 games in week 1, according to ESPN's schedule. I don't know. Y'all may convince me that we should just go back to calling it week 0. Clear that right up. My unnamed texter, he was talking about a situation earlier. Should you have a deal where each conference gets a team in the playoff, or just the best team should get in? But like I said, now they've gone halvesies on it almost. Again, you may have to remind me, but I think it is, 4 or the top 5? Is it the top 5 highest ranked conference champions? And then after that, it's just who they decide to put in at large things. So they've done a little bit of either way. And you said, well, what if it's Mississippi State that was 9-3 and Memphis at 10-2 got in over MSU? I feel like people here would riot. Well, probably so. And that's why I answered it the way I answered it. It's not, I didn't answer it in such a way as trying to sit here and go, okay, I'm the one deciding how to make this the most fair for everybody in the country. I'm not, because college football, you're not going to make it fair. It's too far gone to make it fair to everybody. So the conference affiliation, being in the SEC and playing an SEC schedule, being in the Big Ten, playing a Big Ten schedule, it's just not equal to what these other teams are doing. Sure, you can have a great, Memphis team that runs out here against its schedule and goes 10-2. And what are they in there? Did they go to the Big 12? Are they in? I don't even know anymore. Are they still in the American? Okay, but the example still holds up. It ain't gonna be the same. And sure, they may line up against them and beat them on that day. But if you're telling me that even though college football doesn't reward the regular season the way every other sport does, the NFL included, you're still, by doing it this way, kind of rewarding the regular season a little more, in that you are just, that's the way the cards fell. You happen to be in the SEC. You go 9-3 versus that kind of schedule, you're in. It holds more weight than 10-2 versus the others. And that's why I answered it that way. Sure. If me as a State fan, you're in the SEC, you get the right quarterback, build it up, go make the right purchases in the portal, spend the right money, and every 5 to 7 years you make your run at something, and you have that, maybe it happens for you. You catch lightning, you make that, you got 8 wins, you win that magical 9th game, and now you're right there in the playoff conversation, versus some some group of 5 conference champion that may have one more win than you. It is not equal to what someone will have done to be 9-3 through an SEC schedule. I saw a graphic the other day, and again, it's just somebody's ranking it. Anybody can come up with one, but I thought, yeah, it makes sense. And they were ranking the top 25 most difficult schedules in all of college football. Well, we know everybody that has looked at that kind of thing this year, strength of schedule stuff this year, everybody has Mississippi State, for example, as either the number 1 or the number 2 toughest schedule in the country. Just about everybody does, in some shape, form, or fashion. And people will go, yeah, but Ole Miss, their schedule isn't as tough. We read one here where somebody goes, if they're not 6-0, something's bad wrong. Okay, fine. But that particular list still had Ole Miss in the top 25 toughest schedules in the country. And it goes to show you that even the lighter schedules in that conference compared to the rest of the conference are still tougher compared to the rest of the country. It just is. Just by the fact that Ole Miss has Kentucky, South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, and Mississippi State on its schedule. Go find me the teams outside of the SEC and the Big Ten who have the equivalent of 4 games, and 3 out of those 4 games are against 13th ranked LSU, 16th ranked Oklahoma, and number 1 ranked defending champion Georgia. See, even Ole Miss's schedule, the whole makeup of it is not as tough as some of the others, but the fact that they're in the SEC, they got a tough enough schedule that the weight of what they do with it is going to be really heavy versus some other teams. It's just the way it is. It's the way that it has been built in college football, and we just have to accept it. We don't have a choice. I mean, look, I'm being real with you. It's a little different now that they have expanded it to 12, but still there's an argument to be made, like the one that I have made for years, that the group of 5, the majority of the group of 5, ought to have their own championship to chase, their own playoff, separate of this thing. Because if you think the Sun Belt champion, okay, has a good shot ever of being in the 12-team playoff, you're crazy. You're not thinking right. Just because they've expanded it to 12 teams has no effect on Southern Miss's chances of winning the conference that they're in and getting in it. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It didn't have any effect on it. You don't have access to it. And sitting here under this umbrella, we call it Division I, or we used to. Now it's same thing. It's just called something different. It's now called the FBS. Okay? sitting here pretending that under this umbrella of the FBS is Ole Miss and Southern Miss playing for the same championship. It's a lie. That's what it is. And it's just an outright lie. They ain't playing for the same one, period, ever. Just be real about it. Okay, and if I was, and it doesn't mean that I don't have respect for coaches. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the coaches and players at that level of football. At, Sun Belt, Conference USA, Mountain West. It's a great level of college football. It's a very high level of competition. The NFL is full of their players. Their coaches, a bunch of them are just as good, if not better, than the guys making more money than them at other schools. And time's going to prove that out. It's just the setup is not necessarily fair to them and never was necessarily intended to be fair to them. So they should. There ain't no question in my mind. Still, even now with a 12-team playoff in place, and here we go, we're about to start marching towards it this weekend. There's still no doubt in my mind that for every single player on a Sun Belt team, it would be the NCAA wants to preach at me about the quote unquote student athlete experience. It would be better for every single player on Southern Miss's team if the group of 5 had their own postseason playoff and their own national championship, because you bet Southern Miss and Will Hall would have access to it, and it would make sense, and it wouldn't be diminished in any way. And instead of sending them to the New Orleans Bowl, to play who? Lafayette in front of 4,000 people and play it on December the, 18th at 8 o'clock at night on a Friday and pretending as though it's a reward for their season. Instead of that, if that game was a part of that level's playoff and the winner advanced and the loser's done, everybody in the country would watch it. Well, that's a little hubris there. But sports fans, the interest and the eyeballs on television would double. I still hadn't figured out if it's a pride thing or what. Maybe it's just in a holding pattern to see how this first year is going to go with the 12-team playoff. Maybe. But I don't think it's going to be any different. I hope we get that just for the overall interest. I'm telling you, it'd pull me in, and I believe it would pull you in too as a sports fan, more than it does now. Right now, you turn on a South Alabama football game and you're like, well, they may do something once, but they'll be playing Western Carolina next week. But if they had their own championship, you'd turn it on and go, hey, we may be watching the eventual G5 national champ right here. They should do that. All right, hour 1 in the books, hour 2 coming up. I'll pick it up with your text messages. I haven't forgotten you. Y'all stick around.
I was born and raised in Greenville. I've always called Greenville home. This is where I, was raised, went to high school, graduated high school, worked all my life here, leading up to going to college. So even when I moved from Greenville, I always told people, they asked me where you're from, I always said I'm from Greenville. I have mother, father, brother, niece, aunt, all live here in Greenville. So this is home. This is where I, live, and I've just always called it home. Small town, I feel like I could walk in any place tomorrow and know 2 to 3 people in there. It's small town. Someone's on the side of the road broken down. Hey, you need a boost, flat tire, you need help changing it. That's just kind of, what I love about this area. The blues and the food and everything that comes along with the Mississippi Delta that I love. I tell people all the time, my business cards have my cell phone number on them for a reason. Insurance doesn't happen from 8 to 5. When you need me, it's going to be after 5. It hardly ever happens where you have a wreck, get pulled over, need an insurance card, wind blows, shingles off your roof. All these things happen, and it's typically after 5. And so the ability for someone to call me, get in contact with me, text me, ask me a question, and that's what it's about to me, is helping the people that we serve, is taking care of people, and them knowing that they can count on me whenever they need me. I am Brian Street with Farm Bureau Insurance in Washington County, and we are your home team.
Y'all have heard me talk about Murray West and MurrayWest.com. They made the hat that I'm wearing. Got the Natchez Trace logo on it. I've told you a little bit about what they are. Contract embroidery company here in Mississippi. Started back in 1996, family owned. They do a phenomenal job, and I got to go visit their place up in New Albany. Let me show you a little bit about it. When I say they do quality stuff, they really do. And so custom apparel, team stuff, really and truly, just about every high school in the state is sending their embroidered, team gear, jackets, shirts, hats, stuff. Baseball teams, football teams, they're sending it to the folks at Murray West in New Albany. You go to their website, MurrayWest.com, you go to the bottom, you can kind of see some of the Prairie Wildlife, Ole Miss Athletics, Gentile, others that they work with. Can't recommend them enough. If you need your logo printed, embroidered, sewn on to anything, custom apparel and other stuff, make sure you go there. Murray West, you can find them online. MurrayWest.com. That's MURRY West.com.
Sweet feelings of summer. Off clean feel. Prevention is the best protection.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Time was, their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious non-
1059.com.
All right. Hour 2, back with you on this Monday. Staying connected to you because of C Spire, the number one network in Mississippi. C Spire, customer inspired. I can go just about anywhere and just use my C Spire phone and broadcast to you live on the radio because I trust the signal that much when I take it out and about. I've done it in Alabama. I've done it in New York in a hotel on Park Avenue. True story. So I appreciate them. I appreciate you being here too. We got a reason to be here. You know, it's good for me to be here. It's really good for Beaver to be here because if he's not here, it doesn't matter if I'm here. He must be here for you to be able to hear. But that's the key, is you. Because if you're here, we got a reason. If you're here, we have a show. So I just really appreciate you. So everybody today on the text line, I'm coming to you, Cowboy Ready, Denzel, Ed, Hogjowl, Scott, Tibbs, better known as Thibodeau, Jason, Bodine, all y'all, I'm coming to you. The phone line's open to you as well on the Divinity Equipment phone line, the number to call, 897-1059. That's a 601 number, 897-1059. You know, I was commenting earlier here on the live stream, too, to Will. He watches and listens and comments on YouTube. We've had a bunch of comments today on Facebook also. Lots of viewers out there in X land, formerly Twitter. But Will says, we were looking for Sven. Sven over in Berlin, Germany. He used to be here every day, but I've been missing him. I don't know if he's taking time off or if he left us. I made him mad. I hope he's okay. And he used to always ask for the sonic boom. And Will commented on YouTube and said, maybe Sven wants more sonic boom. You think that'll bring him out of the woodworks? We'll try it. We'll try it, Will. Here's a little sonic boom just for Sven. Y'all send word somehow. Let him know we did it for him. Roll your window down. Turn it up to 11. See if you turn any heads. And text me on the Country Pleasing text line, 885-3776, 885-3776 or 885-ESPN. All right, Will, there we go. Maybe that'll work. Maybe that'll work. All right, over to the text line, Cowboy Ready. He texted earlier. He said, of course they know how all the teams have the coaches. They don't even know what they have. He said, and by the way, hey, Matt, and hey, B, in Matt Wyatt's voice. Well, hey to you, Cowboy Ready. Yeah, I don't blame ESPN or anybody else. I don't blame them for doing preseason rankings. I don't believe in any of it. I think it's harder now to predict preseason stuff than it's ever been. And going, okay, the 12 teams are going to come from this group. Well, look, anybody could do that. There's almost no intelligence behind it. You know, it's like you spend decades propping up this weird system we've had where there's no rules. As you know, the idea that the NCAA was a governing body from an enforcement standpoint, I've always called them a ghost that everybody apparently believed in. Some did anyway. And all the world it did is it created this giant Grand Canyon of a gap between the rosters of some schools and everybody else. So going, well, these 24, that's where the 12, really? What? Anybody could do that. Really, anybody could. White Denzel texts the show and he says, Matt, just so you are aware, he says the biggest game of the year for MAIS takes place Friday night. The Fighting Phillip Princes, that would be the Leak Academy Rebels, going to the Brickyard to take on Jackson Academy. Should be a heck of a game. Yes, it should. Yes, it should, Denzel. And Philip can tell you all about that quarterback they got at Leak, who he can, hey, look, you better be on your toes because he can light you up. Old School Ed texts the show. What's up, Ed? He said, hey, Matt, quick shout out to Swayze Bozeman, former Tri-County and Southern Miss standout, was a Kansas City Chiefs leader in tackles this week. He said, it's preseason, but congrats. I'm pulling for him to make the roster. Yep. Really cool. And that's sort of the cool thing, isn't it, Ed, about preseason every year, is guys trying to make a roster and players you followed in college that are in an NFL uniform now. You're trying to see how it's, how much reps they're getting in certain situations, and maybe that's a clue as to whether they have an inside angle on the 53. And 53 players is not much. You go to a state or an Ole Miss game, you see all those players. They got 80-something. Well, at the very least, 65-something players dressed out. A lot of non-conference home games, they'll have 80 guys dressed out. Go to an NFL game and look at the sideline, and you'll be struck by how few players it is when you only have 53 in comparison. Hog Jowl texts the show. Good to hear from you. He said, it's always great listening to you. I don't care if it's week 0 or week 1. Let's play football, all caps. Go Hogs. Hey, and by the way, Hog Jowl, when I was describing that stretch in the Ole Miss schedule, sure, Ole Miss's schedule is kind of light overall as compared to some of the other SEC schedules, but it's still an SEC schedule. And they've got that 4-week stretch in there. And I said where 3 of them are ranked in the preseason, whatever, but it was LSU, Oklahoma, culminating with a game against number 1 Georgia. But in between is Arkansas. So that's a 4-game stretch. LSU, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia. And even though Ole Miss is scheduled one of the lighter ones in the SEC, there aren't many schools outside of the Big Ten and the SEC that have anywhere near a 4-game stretch like that. Scott, Prattville Scott, my man Scott Stacy. He said Prattville remodeling their stadium. Yep, Stanley Stadium, downtown Prattville, right there on Autauga Creek. It's being remodeled. Home games for the varsity are going to be at Wetumpka. Home games for JV and freshmen are going to be at Marbury. I saw that. And, it's not like it's relatively close, but it's not like it's 5 minutes away to go up to Wetumpka for a home game. That's interesting. They're being displaced like that this year at Prattville. The only thing, Scott, is when I go back eventually, it's going to be really weird seeing the old visitor side now be the home side after they get it done. That's going to be odd. But the more things change. Or speaking of Prattville, Scott, Prattville, Alabama. And if you get my newsletter, if you subscribe, and I don't bombard you with stuff, but I sent one out that went out this morning early. And if you want to subscribe to my email newsletter, I wish you would. You can just go to mattwyattmedia.com and subscribe. It's free, and I don't blow up your inbox, but some thoughts every now and then. One of the things that was in there this morning was a picture of the Bell House on Upper Kingston Road between downtown Prattville and up there where the high school is. The old Bell House. It was built in 1893, and it was in the movie The Grass Harp, a movie called The Grass Harp. And it had Walter Matthau in it, and Jack Lemmon and Sissy Spacek. And they filmed a lot of it over in Wetumpka, but they used that house in Prattville, the Bell House, and it was in there. And there's a line in that movie by the narrator who's narrating the part of the main character that said, so little, once it changes back. And I love that line for some reason. And yeah, that's the thing. Once it changes, so little changes back. We're going to have the visitor side be the home side. Just get used to it. Well, what other choice do we have? It ain't going to change back. Thibodeau texts the show. What's up, Thibodeau? He said, if and when the super conferences become the only teams eligible for the 12-team playoff, the group of 5 schools are going to be more intriguing and entertaining to me. How about that? When the super conferences become the only teams eligible for the 12-team playoff, the G5 quote unquote schools are going to be more intriguing, entertaining to me. Listen, Thibodeau, listen, we haven't discussed it here. If we were all sitting around a table and we had an hour, it'd be interesting to kick that one around a little bit and go, hey, just a question. Just a question. You know, you over here, you're an Ole Miss fan, have been your whole life. And over there, you're a State fan. Hey, and you're an Arkansas fan. But listen, if that whole thing gets driven into, you know, it's like a semi-pro and you get a players union and they're negotiating salaries and they'll have agents and all that kind of thing, and you kind of get priced out. What are the chances you might just go, you know what? Delta State plays a brand of what we'd call real college football. MC. Them guys ain't getting jack squat, except that getting every class and every book and every dorm room paid for so they can get a degree. It's almost like what I thought the other stuff used to be. What are the chances you'd find yourself falling in line and become a fan of one of those schools? Would you do that? What are the chances? I don't know. It's interesting. I wonder how many generations that would take for it to actually take root. Jason in Flagstaff, Arizona says, this is what's going to happen, he says. A group of 5 team will beat a Big 12 or ACC or lower level surprise Big 10 or SEC team, and the Goofs will be like, they belong. 12 minutes later, Georgia or Ohio State will absolutely embarrass them. Ask TCU. And TCU ain't even what you're talking about, but they're a pretty good example, aren't they, Jason? See, what the structure of the sport has allowed Georgia and Ohio State and Michigan and recently Alabama to do with their rosters, what they've allowed them to do with their rosters has created that scenario. TCU is a fun little story until they run up against Georgia, and then it's like, oh my gosh, this is unhealthy. These guys are going to get hurt. This ain't going to, you got to have extra ambulances. That's what you've created. Bodine Dog says, Matt, have you heard anything about the Mississippi junior college teams? I know we have some of the best in the nation. And then he says, Matt, your show's part of my day during the week. I really enjoy it so much, and I thank you and Beaver. Signed, Bodine. Well, Bodine Dog, man, thank you. We're glad to be a part of your day during the week. Yeah, I haven't heard much, but you're right. It's hands down the most competitive junior college football league in America. It's a good team in Arizona every now and then, maybe one in Kansas every now and then. But in terms of the overall league, there's nothing like the junior college league you have in Mississippi. Gulf Coast, Pearl River, East Mississippi, Northwest, Northeast got better. Every now and then, Itawamba will pop up and beat everybody. I mean, yeah, Hines, Holmes. Only 35-year-old Ed. Ed says, I agree with you, Matt. He said it'd be like a 1A or a 6A school playing for the same title. I mean, that's what it is. And then, so that's it. I mean, that's kind of what it is, Ed. Like, and in a rare case, back in the day, sort of, I know growing up in Alabama, there was a small school. I think they were 1A. And they're up there in that northwest Alabama portion of kind of northwest Alabama. The same thing as Hazel Green, where all the Good brothers that played at Alabama went to school, and Antonio Langham and Terrence Lynch and all those guys came from there, and they won a bunch of. And not far down the road from there was a little bitty school called Cortland. And, you know, you go back 80s, early 90s, Cortland was a 1A school that, you know, maybe could have lined up, and if they keep their 11 healthy, they could go toe-to-toe with some of the bigger schools. But right now, you're not going to find any 1A schools who can step out there with Brandon and Oak Grove and, right? Ocean Springs and those kind of schools and play with them, you're not going to find it. It's just, it ain't in the cards. And it's not a knock against what they've built at those 1A schools. It's just different, right? And pretending what college does and pretending it. But what college does is they really have driven it to a point where it's really making no bones about the fact that it's, for them, their college football team and program in its conference affiliation is a cash cow. That's what it is. They're not looking for a way to make it more fair to everybody else. That ain't what it's about anymore. It's, hey, get you a big scoop and just scoop that cash right on in my wheelbarrow. Because that's what it's about. Dog Tired in Florence. Good to hear from you. Florence, Mississippi, the home of Country Pleasing Sausage and Country Meat Packers on Highway 49 in Florence. The Cooper family is getting all geared up for college baseball. Seth he's in the big time now up there at Little Rock. He'll be on a big diamond playing on SEC Plus before you know it. Florence, Mississippi, the home of Country Meat Packers. Dog Tired in Florence says, I saw John Rice Plumlee as a special teams player for the Steelers. He said, if there was ever a Cordell Stewart reincarnated, it's him. I wonder why he's not taking a couple of snaps in the preseason. He said, week 0 is the same as the dog's days of summer. It's a subjective opinion that defines an arbitrary parcel of time. I like that. Very eloquent way to define it there, Dog Tired. He said, dog days used to mean that you shouldn't swim in still pools of water in August. That would still be good advice, wouldn't it? Russ, on every time, by the way, I have several friends named Russ, and every time I say their name, I picture Clark Griswold, that old gag that kept popping up in the vacation movies, Christmas Vacation, the original one, is he'd look right over Russ's head and go, Russ! And he'd be right here, Dad. Oh, hey, Russ. My man Russ on Facebook said, to your point earlier, I pretty much don't watch the bowl games mid-December. He said, add a playoff stipulation to it. Now it catches my attention more. I like that idea. Yeah, and see, Russ, that's it to me. It just heightens it. It's teams that, they're playing for something that means something. It's no different than anything else. You add a little more urgency and meaning to it, it becomes more intriguing and more people are going to tune in and watch it and enjoy it. I don't know why they haven't done it. It'd be better for everybody. Better for everybody. Real C texts the show. He said, 1 semester at Delta State. He said, I graduated at MC. Both are great. He said, it's a shame I couldn't do right at State. Well, but is it a shame? Look how you turned out, Real C. It's fine. It's fine. Everybody's journey is a little different. Everybody's journey is a little different. You turned out. I wish I was catching fish in a boat like you have. Real C. Don't be. I mean, you don't cut yourself short. I think things turned out pretty well. Plus, you graduated at MC. Isn't that a fairly expensive education, Real C? Isn't it? And to think that, like, your football players, aren't they scholarship? Aren't they full scholarship at MC? Think about that. That education, get it paid for because you can play football, run fast, tackle, which is fun to do. Do something really fun that you're good at, and in exchange, a free college degree. Pretty good system. I don't care what anybody tells you. It's a good system. It is. All right, back over to Jason in Flagstaff, Arizona. He says, that reminds me, I meant to ask because I got into a rabbit hole about them over the weekend. Have you ever thought about doing your Here in Mississippi thing on the barrier islands? Horn Island specifically has crazy history. Well, yeah, I am fascinated with it too, Jason. And, recently on the Mississippi Outdoors podcast for Wildlife and Fisheries, we talked to the park ranger. That's the ranger over the Gulf Islands Park off the Mississippi coast. And some of the details in the history there is just fascinating, especially the fact that just due to the way that its position and where it is, it has not changed in all those years. And that fort that they built out there in the early 19th century that was used during the Civil War, it's still sitting out there. You can get on a boat and in 10 minutes you're out there at it. And on the other side is really clear water and stuff. And I think for me, it's just a matter of getting a chance to maybe spend a little more time there because I am fascinated by it, especially the seafood. But I digress. East Webster J, he says that's the issue Ole Miss will have. He says the overall depth is still hands down stronger with Georgia, Ohio State, and even Alabama. He says, but one game they could do it because their top 22 are similar versus G5 or not. Well, and Jay, yes, I think that's true. I still think Georgia, Ohio State, some of those are on a different level, but you do have to credit Ole Miss because you don't have to study very much to see that they have continued to just go out and spend and spend and spend and spend in the transfer portal to bring in as much depth at a higher level as they possibly can. You know, they have taken the approach of, look, you have free agency, but there's no cap. So why wouldn't you, if we're going to make a run, why wouldn't you go out and buy as much insurance as you can buy? And that's what they've tried to do. So they've closed it a little bit more than they used to have it, I think. It's going to be an interesting year for them for sure. All right. When we come back, what did Jeff Lebby say after the scrimmage? I'll let you hear it. Stick around.
C-Spire team members.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Time was, their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right. And they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that. But irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes bran, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing. It's a what? It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new transgram fun thing. It's a what? It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing. It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. 620.
.com.
All right. Back with you. Real unnamed texter. All right. I got to admit, unnamed texter, I had looked at it before. The idea of Florida having this unbelievably tough schedule is not strange to me at all. But you bring it up, so I'm forced to look at it again, and oh my goodness. He said, as bad as State's 4-game stretch, Florida's last 5 games takes the cake. He says, heck, their whole schedule is brutal, and it really is brutal for the Gators this year. Okay, and if you haven't looked at it, just a reminder, Florida's 5-game stretch to finish the season with no break is Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida State. 5 in a row. No break. They host Georgia, neutral site Georgia, go to Texas, host LSU, host Ole Miss, and finish at Florida State. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss. Like the lowest preseason ranking for any of those is 13. That's LSU. Number 1, Georgia. 4, Texas. 13, LSU. 6, Ole Miss. 10, Florida State. Man. That's the 5 game. So here's what Florida has. They play their first 4 games and then have an open date. And those first 4 are Miami, Samford, which is like terrible to try to defend Chris Hatcher's offense at Samford. They are air raid going all. He's not from the mummy tree at Valdosta State and can just absolutely evermore run that offense. So they got them. Miami, Samford, Texas A&M, and then go to Starkville. Open date. And then they play 3 in a row, UCF, at Tennessee and Kentucky, and then they have another open date. And then here comes the gauntlet. Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. Bless their hearts. Brad texts the show and he says, hey, y'all, I wanted to propose a question. How do y'all handle invitations to weddings that take place in a fall football Saturday? Do y'all just not go, or go if it's close family friends? You know, Brad, I'm just being real with you. I have flip-flopped on this as I've gotten older. I don't know if it makes me right or wrong now, and I used to be right, but I flip-flopped on it. I used to say that it was really selfish of people, especially in the Southeast, where you have families that are friends, particularly families full of diehard football fans, to schedule your wedding on a fall Saturday. They said it was selfish. But I have flip-flopped on it. especially in the advent of you can record anything at any time. You can go back and watch anything on demand anytime you want to. Okay? And I have begun to gravitate over into, I now live in a world over here where football isn't the only thing, the end all be all. Football isn't a God, little g, anymore. There are other things more important than football. Even real live games on Saturdays in the fall, and I believe in some cases weddings are more important. I believe that. And there's certain people that's when you need to have it, and that's when you want to have it, I'll be there. Football game can wait. I flip-flopped on it. I know I sound like I'm blaspheming with people down here in the South. I know. I played it. Some things are more important. Football's not that important. I said it. You have close family, friends, and they want to get married, and for whatever reason they're going to do it on Fall Saturday, you go to the wedding. Get your butt there. And run, tell them I said it. Jason said, if John Rice Plumlee had anything remotely close to Cordell Stewart's arm, we'd have never heard of Matt Corral. That's according to Jason. You're probably right about that. Real C said, most people that spend as much money and years on an education as I did are referred to as doctors. Oh, well. He said, I have my own special talents. Yes, you do. Real C, and I do too. That's what I'm talking about. Real C, we have our own special talents. You know what we ought to do, Real C? Let's collaborate, me and you, and let's write and illustrate a children's book about people like us that have our own special talents, who didn't become doctors and lawyers. Ed said, let's just make it like college basketball. You have the NCAA tournament, and for the ones that don't make the cut, the NIT. You have the 12-team playoff. All the other teams play bowl games, get into a football version of the NIT. Fine with me. That's basically what we have anyway. That's basically what we have anyway. Now, somebody said, what a horrible take, he says. People spend thousands and thousands of dollars that can't be refunded, and you selfishly schedule something that literally no one wants to be there because you're a selfish clown. See what I mean? I told you. And that's kind of how I used to feel about it. And I used to almost get on a stump about it because football was such a religion to me. And it is to so many, but I don't think that's right. I have changed. Now I don't want to preach to you. And when you express that opinion, frankly, I know exactly where you're coming from. I'm just saying something changed with me. Where I'm fully on board with there are other things that are just more important than football. What can I even say that on the radio? Are they going to let me back on the radio tomorrow? I don't know. All right. They had a big scrimmage. Everybody did. But after the scrimmage, Mississippi State head coach Jeff Lebby took some questions from the media. Here's a little bit of that.
Coach, I guess maybe just kind of start with general observations. And did you see a little more cleaner execution this week compared to last?
Yeah, it was similar from the standpoint there was a lot of back and forth. Both sides of the ball had success. We were much better today from a non-playing penalty standpoint, which was good to see on both sides of the ball. So got to continue to stress that and move that in the right direction.
Coach, obviously last year their season was kind of ended premature by injuries with Dink and Travion. How have they kind of responded this year, and how big of a piece do you expect?
Hey, and let me cut in. This is a question about young defensive linemen Jamal Dinkins and Trevion Williams. Both had some injuries they're coming back from.
Going to play on the D-line.
Yeah, they'll both play a huge piece. Both those guys, we're trying to be really, really smart as we're getting them back. Dink's done a little more, but Trey's done some really good things early, and we're trying to be smart with him right now as we're trying to get him back in the fold. But both those guys will have, major impacts this fall.
I know he's a young guy and still learning, but noticed that Joe Head was kind of started out at jack linebacker in the spring, but noticed he's moved to defensive end.
Yeah.
What have you seen from him with that move?
Yeah, I've seen a guy that's got great physicality and a really, really high motor. He plays the game the way you want him to play it. Again, a young guy that got a lot of ball ahead of him, but just love his temperament, his personality, and how he goes about it.
All right, a little bit more coming up. A little bit more coming up from Levy. He had some other interesting things to say. Let me just say this too. I think I don't know. I just viewing it from a distance. Yeah, I am not on the inside, and like in the meeting rooms and all that kind of stuff. It just kind of glancing at it from a distance. There's something about Levy, the way he handles it, the way he talks about it, the way he interacts. I don't know. With media, I'm talking about. I don't know. It's passing the smell test to me. It's just something that seems right about it. I just get all the right signals watching him and listening to him. I really believe that. We'll see how it goes, and it's year one. I'm just telling you, my gut is telling me that this is a real football coach, like a real dude of a football coach. I think he is. I think State's got a good coach on their hands, and they got their work cut out for them this year. Sun Devil Macy texted the show and said the first question had, quote, more cleaner in it. Signed, Hottie Toddy. Well, yeah, look, grammar gives a flip. Good catch, though, Macy. Thanks for listening. More when we come back. A little bit of time left on this Monday. Stick around.
Hi, Alicia.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do?
Everything's under control. Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion? Yeah, yes, yes. And the fun continues with Night Court. Thursday.
For over half a century, dairymen have tried to capture in cans the flavor of pure, fresh milk. And now Foremost has discovered the secret with an evaporated milk that's closest by far to fresh milk itself.
Kind of hard to believe, isn't it? An evaporated milk that doesn't have that old-fashioned evaporated milk taste. But it's true, and you can prove it. You know how most evaporated milks taste in coffee. The flavor goes flat. But try Foremost. You'll see it's white, the way milk ought to look, not drab tan like other brands. And when you taste it, well, if you're anything like me, you'll never even know it isn't pure, fresh cream. You try it and see. That's Foremost, the closest thing in cans to pure, fresh milk. Remember, your family gets the most from Foremost.
Coca-Cola, come on, girl. Gotta share a Coke with you. Let the feeling show through. You wanna live a little bit more. That's what the taste of Coke is for. Coke is like everybody wants a little life. Coca-Cola, Coke is like everybody wants.
Come on, Harry, come on. We're getting our picture taken.
Special moments. Times of your life you'll want to remember. In pictures.
Smile, Howard. Smile.
To help make those pictures look as good as they can, make sure Kodak paper is behind them. If you don't see these words, it isn't Kodak paper. Just look for this sign when you get your pictures. Kodak paper, for a good look at the times of your life.
Gee, wasn't that fun?
Come and get it. Come and
Stop the confusion. Stop the confusion. Everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Buster wants the cornflakes. Pop wants a pep. Mama loves the raisin bran. Mama is hip. Sister loves Rice Krispies. And there's Uncle Jack. He loves Kellogg's shredded wheat. Kellogg's makes it fun to eat. Breakfast with Variety Pack. Okay, folks, there's your favorite individual box of cereal, fresh from Kellogg's Variety Pack, untouched by human hands, except your own. That don't mean you gotta eat with 'em. Each individual box comes to your FOD, fresh on delivery from Battle Creek, right to your own dish. Yeah, everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Yes, sir, Kellogg's Variety Pack.
Here comes the one, the delicious one. Heinz is the big rich one. There's only one ketchup with this flavor pouring on. It's so thick, so rich, so second to none.
Only one ketchup stands for this kind of thickness with this kind of taste. Heinz.
Heinz is the big rich one.
I love the rich, whole wheat goodness of Kellogg's Mini Wheats. But the delicious frosted side makes the rich kid in me open wide.
The nutritious shredded wheat helps keep me on my toes. But the little ballerina in me thinks the taste steals the show.
Or even losing the game. You're going to hear about them all and get to talk about it with Matt Wyatt right here, right now on the Zone 105.9 and worldwide at the Zone1059.com.
All right, back with you. A little bit of time left here today. Real C said that he would collaborate on a book with me. He said, we're going to have to put a lot of pictures in it for our friends, though. Which, yeah, I already accounted for that, Real C. Also, unnamed texter didn't like my answer about fall weddings. And he said, it's not about football being a religion. It's about money more than anything. Tailgates, hotels, tickets cost a ton of money, and you were telling people to just eat that because you're more important than anyone else. He's saying if you schedule a fall wedding. You know, and what I would say is you make your own individual decision. You know what you've laid out there, and you may be speaking from experience. And I'm really not, so I guess it can be different for everybody. I guess what I'm telling you is I've reached a point where I just don't think about it quite the way I used to. I just don't. If I'm able, if I got a loved one, close friend, and they want to get married in the fall, and it happens to be on a football Saturday, if I'm able to be there, I'm going. Because those kinds of things are more important than a ball game. They just are. And then, like you say, I mean, you can peel back your own onion of a situation and say, well, we got this, and we reserved that, and we made these plans, and, they're all different. Do what you want to do. Ain't nobody going to hold it against you. Do what you have to do. I'm just saying my way of thinking on it has changed over the years. All right, more from Levy post-scrimmage.
Where would you say you saw the most improvement or progression from scrimmage 1 to scrimmage 2?
Yeah, I do. I think it's the non-playing penalty part of it, just being able to play clean before the snap, being able to play clean from a substitution standpoint, getting guys on and off the field, as game-like as possible. So, again, we've got to continue to trend that way.
Let me say this, too. I know he addressed it there. He may address it again that we're going to hear here. But I just keep going back to how fast they were able to play offensively at the end of the spring after really, 3 weeks to 3.5 weeks of football practice. And I was so impressed. Spring game, for instance, they ran off all those plays offensively and did not have pre-snap penalties, and they were really going fast. Now, obviously, they're going to have more to think about now in terms of what's installed. And every player, every position is trying to process more now than they were back in the spring, pre-snap, everything else. So maybe that has led to, dealing with some pre-snap penalty stuff. As fast as they go, you would think they would deal with it some. But he's saying that that's been a focus, and it sounded to me like they're doing well, and that was one of the things that really impressed me back in the spring.
Coach, you've had most of your wide receivers now, for the spring and the fall. I mean, now that you've had a chance to kind of work with them and kind of see what they do well, how would you kind of assess the talent level of that group?
Yeah, I think we got good players in that room, and I think we've gotten to the point to where we've got some quality depth. So I think between week 1, week 2, week 3, as we get into it, I think we're going to be able to play 7 to maybe 8 guys from the receiver room and count on those guys to play winning football. It's kind of like I talked about last week. It's not just guys that can go play, it's guys that can go win. So I feel good about where we're at in that room.
You had some more hard physical runs from 𝐷𝐿 Lee today. What do you like about his running style?
Yeah, just a guy he's a +2 guy. He can find a way to where, he can gain 6, but he's going to fall for 8. And he's got to continue to do that. He's got to give us that physicality at the position. But it's not just 𝐷𝐿. We got some other guys that can do it as well. But just love just having the big physical part of who 𝐷𝐿 is, being able to have that is huge.
All right, and we can get into some more of that tomorrow when we have time. Rick had a question on Facebook on the live stream. He said, hey, Matt, in the stadium press box, is the stadium press box where you broadcast the football games air conditioned? Just wondering how hot you're going to get at that first game. Yeah, I mean, it technically is, but it doesn't do any good, Rick, because, we're in that booth up there on the west side, and we have these giant windows that we open, so we're just out in the open air, basically. And so the reason I say it barely is it's like there's a vent back up there in the ceiling shooting out cold air for when it's closed, because you're like in a room. But when those giant windows are pulled up, that little vent up there shooting out cold air, it's like using a little squirt gun to put out a barn fire.
This is a barn fire!
It just ain't going to make no difference. So basically it's not air conditioned. And that's just kind of the way it is. All right, over to the phone line, the Davini Equipment phone line. Davini Equipment, they're in Madison, they're in Jackson on Spring Ridge Road, up in Madison on Highway 51, and they are your Kubota dealer. They are the oldest Kubota dealer in the U.S., in fact. That means Bruce and the folks at Davini have been doing it better, longer than anyone else right here at home at Davini. Over on line 1, it's Thibodeau. What's up, Thibodeau? Thanks for calling.
Let's just make everybody happy with this wedding in the fall stuff.
All right.
Here's how you do it. In 2019, my wife and I got married in October, but we didn't invite anybody. We eloped. So there's your fall wedding that doesn't hurt anybody's feelings.
You know who else that would make happy a lot of times is these situations where the dad of the bride is going to have to fork out and go into debt all this money just to put on a wedding, and he offers, look, you take several $1,000s here, put that in your pocket and go elope. We'll call it a deal, right? And he wants you to take the deal. He probably is happy in that situation too.
Well, for us, it's a little bit different. I've previously been married, so my family's like, we've already gone through this.
Yeah.
Congratulations, but you don't have to throw a big party. Mm-hmm. And she's not very close to her family, so we were funding this ourselves, and we were like, let's just go take a big old vacation and have a really good time instead of cater bad food to 200 people.
I hear you. That is one way to solve it. Well, that's good. And it was on a Saturday? You eloped on a Saturday?
We actually got married on a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Savannah, Georgia, and we had an officiant, and just did it in a pretty part of Forsyth Park, and then spent that weekend exploring Savannah and the surrounding area.
Oh, man, that's awesome. And I bet that's a pretty decent time to be in Savannah in October. Only time I've ever been there was like the hottest part of the summertime, and it's brutally hot down there.
Yeah, that's everybody we spoke with said that that's their biggest touring month is October. They get the most visitors during October than any month out of the year. So everything was busy and bustling and fun, and everything was open. And then also, this was right before pandemic, so everything was normal.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
I bet. That's great. That's great. Well, and glad it's working out as well. See? So, good stuff, Thibodeau. Thank you. That's one way to do it.
Yep, have a good one.
You too, man. And hey, and also on the wedding subject, Jason in Flagstaff texted the show. He said, fall weddings never bothered me. Much prefer to miss a game than spend 6 hours in a suit on a beach, at the lake, etc. in the middle of July. Yes. I'm with you. See, Jason, here's what you're getting at. Us big old boys, those of us who've reached big old boy status, not too interested in sitting out there in a suit and sweating it to the oldies as well at your July wedding. Move that thing to October. Sure. Well, I don't know. Maybe there's to each his own. I'm not the end all be all. My opinion on that does not have to be anybody else's opinion. And I used to be that way and say, look, in this part of the country, your entire family is just going to be everybody's family. It's going to be full of sports fans, particularly college football fans. And you want to ask them to come to church on Fall Saturday and watch you get married, knowing whether they're going to pay attention because they're going to be looking down at their phone, checking the score, watching the game or a game and all that. But I've just done it. I've done a reverse. Well, fine. Yeah, if it's that important to them, they can keep up with the game on their phone. What's the big deal? Love is more important. Football. Who knows? I may wake up tomorrow and feel differently about it, but I don't think so. Well, as we said at the beginning of the show, I appreciate you being a part of it. We are in what is going to be referred to as game week. Here we are. Ball games coming up this weekend. There's 4 of them, including that Florida State, Georgia Tech game in Ireland. So 11 a.m., you can wake up Saturday morning and watch that. And I'm sure that the 4-letter network will have about 8 people sitting at a desk somewhere talking about it for 4.5 hours. And some of y'all got so little to do, you'll sit there and watch it. But I want to check it out at kickoff. So welcome to game week. We're going to line up again tomorrow, same time, same place, and do it again. For Beaver, I'm Matt. All of us here in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. See you tomorrow. See ya.